Silver is exploding in price. It is going up higher and higher and higher. Are you too late to the silver pump? Is silver the world's future currency? Is silver a threat to Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin a threat to silver? Let's talk about it in this video. I've had multiple people reach out to me. If silver's the future, maybe some kind of tokenized silver or silver blockchain, maybe that's the future instead of Bitcoin. Let's talk about it. Why are people asking this question? They're asking it because the cost of silver, the price of silver, has gone up. They're not asking for any technical reason. They're not asking for any underlying reason. They're just asking because it's kind of the hot topic right now that the price of silver has gone up, and it has gone up dramatically. As recently as 2018, the price for silver was $14. As recently as mid-2022, or just about 3 years ago before the time of recording, it was $17. Now, here it is, around the $50 mark for silver. So silver has definitely had a dramatic run. Silver has outpaced the American stock market. It's outpaced most companies in the world. Silver objectively has had a really good run. And if you zoom out, it's up in even larger forms. Obviously, when you zoom out to a large number of years, you got to have a different compound annual growth rate. But if you go all the way back to just under 30 years ago, if you go back to April of 1932, the cost for silver was 28 cents. As recently as the 1970s, it got all the way up into the $30 range or so. And then, of course, it came back down, hovered in the $5 to $10 range for a few decades. And now here we are about $50 again. Silver has kept going up and up and up, just like how Bitcoin has trended up in price for a very long time. Silver has been doing it as well. So why is it that silver is not the world's future monetary standard when Bitcoin is? Let's talk about it. The specific questions I'm going to answer in this video is why is silver going to continue going up in price? Is silver going to be the world's future currency? And why is Bitcoin the better alternate? And for those of you that are genuine subscribers and long-term viewers of mine, I'm going to give you some information at the end of the video about how you can buy Bitcoin on a 10 to 30-year note with no monthly payments, with minimal credit check, income verification, everything else using your home's equity. You're going to hear a lot more about this from myself and other people in the future, but at the end of the video, I'll talk about that. So let's get back to silver. Why is it up in price so much? It's up in price so much because your denominator is broken. If you look at this chart here, on the x-axis, the bottom axis here, you have in years going from the year 1920 all the way to here in the 2020s. Just over a century of price history is what you see for silver here. But the y-axis, the vertical axis, goes from 10 cents up logarithmically to $1, $10, and then all the way up to $100 is that top line there. But here's the problem. Between 1920 and here in 2020, we have expanded the number of dollars dramatically. $1 in 1920 buys you way less than $1 does today. And so the problem when you look at charts like this, whether it's the cost of silver or housing or food or chicken or gold or uranium or Bitcoin for that matter or anything else, the problem is you're measuring in something that is not predictable. It's not fixed. Imagine if we diluted how many days were in a year by 2% a year. Well, all of a sudden, things get pretty wacky because if you're diluting a year by 2% every single year, well, then every year is being diluted more and more and more. If every year got 2% shorter in duration, years would go from being 365 days long to 300 days long to 200 days long. You know, you give it enough years and pretty soon years are shorter than days, right? And then you would get a chart that makes absolutely no sense. It's getting more and more constrained over time. And so the problem here is that when you look at the cost of things, whether it's housing or silver, when you denominate in dollars, you get charts that go up and vertical to the right. Not because the dollar is going up, but because it's going down. Or it's not because the asset's going up, but because the dollar is going down. If you're enjoying this video so far, please like and subscribe. It does mean a lot. I hate mentioning it. It feels a little cringe, but it does help. Please share this video with those in your life that are convinced that silver is the world future standard. But to give an example of what I'm talking about, something that's a bit more obvious than the US dollar here is the Argentine peso. If I'm here, sitting here saying that the dollar has gone down in value over time, and therefore pricing silver in terms of dollars is an oxymoron, people go in the comment section, people that aren't loyal subscribers like you are, people go in the comment section and they criticize and they yell and they shout, yeah, but the dollar's stable and blah, 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 whatever. Okay, let's look from something that you might agree with. Okay, look at the peso here. The peso, in terms of dollars, has fallen dramatically. Okay, it's gone from 0.16 in 2008 to now it's 0.0007. Okay, the peso, in terms of dollars, has fallen 99% over the course of the last roughly 15, 16 years. Okay, the peso is not a fixed standard of measurement. Every single year, the peso is diluting 10%, 20%, 8%, 32%, whatever it is, right? It's diluting at a non-constant rate down towards zero in terms of dollars. And so a lot of people right now are euphoric. Oh my gosh, silver skyrocketing. Silver is the future. Silver is what everyone's going to go to. Sure, okay. If you want to look at that, here's an even better chart for you. If you want the best chart possible for silver, this is the price for silver. Oh my gosh, look at that. Luke is a moon boy on silver. Luke is a hyperbole on silver. Look at that vertical chart. Oh my gosh, silver was the best investment in the history of man. Look at that chart. It just goes vertical the last few years. Wow, I should have gotten on that train. I should have bought gold. I should have bought silver. I should have bought Bitcoin or housing or whatever it is, right? The problem here is that, again, this chart you're looking at here on the screen is measuring the price of silver in terms of Argentine pesos. This chart we were looking at before in blue is silver in terms of dollars. And how do we move it to linear? Where's linear? Right now it's on log. I want it off log. Where's the log button? I don't see one here, but the point is that if this was on linear scale, the chart would be even more dramatic than what it looks like on logarithmic scale. But going back to the price of silver denominated in pesos, you get an even more dramatic chart. If you want to artificially manipulate something as looking like an even better investment, what you do is you artificially manipulate the currency you're pricing that investment in downwards. So is it fair? That's the question. Is it fair for me to sit here and say silver is on a meteoric bull run? It just keeps going up and up and up. Look at how vertical silver is. Look at the chart. The chart doesn't lie. The chart's objective truth, right? The chart is not objective truth if the currency you're pricing in is not objective truth. It is not the best answer for me to tell you that silver has gone up by like 100x in price over the course of the last 10 years because I'm pricing it to you through something that is not truthful, which is the Argentine peso. And the point of why I'm giving this example here is that the same thing to a lesser degree is true with the dollar. It is not accurate to say that the cost, the value of silver has gone up by a factor of 100x. It is true to say the price has gone up by a factor of 100x, but that's because prices have been diluted. The same exact thing, my friends, is true about silver when denominated in terms of the US dollar. Yes, silver is up. Yes, silver has tripled in the last couple of years alone. Yes, silver is up by a factor of 100x over the course of the last 100 years or so, but it is literally no different than saying silver is up by a factor of 100x over the last decade or so when measuring in pesos. If you were to adjust the price of silver instead of in nominal terms of US dollars, but instead you were to price silver in real terms after having adjusted to inflation, you see a chart that is a lot less meteoric. And in my opinion, this chart is also still wrong because it's going off of federal CPI. It's not going off of the actual cost of goods and services, but that's a longer story for another time. So the question is, if it is not really entirely truthful to say that silver has skyrocketed in price when measuring in Argentine political currency units, and if it also isn't really true to say that silver has skyrocketed in price in terms of American political currency units, what is the best standard of measure to measure silver in? I would argue it is Bitcoin. Why? Because unlike Argentine or American political currency, Bitcoin is static in the number of currency units within that system. American years, proverbially, right? American years on the x-axis are being diluted 2 to 3 to 5% every single year, and thus speeding up and up and up in an exponential fashion. Argentine pesos are diluting at a rate 10 times faster, and Bitcoin is gaining a larger share of the world. And when you price the world in Bitcoin, you see what's actually happening. What's actually happening is not that silver is this magical rock that's just rising up and up and up in value forever, like this, floating boat. What you're actually watching here is that the world is producing more and more silver. And as the world produces more and more silver, each individual unit of silver becomes inherently worth less when compared to the total aggregate of silver. If you have 100 silver coins in the world, and some guy in some video or some headline says, oh my gosh, silver is the future. Look at how much silver is skyrocketing in value. Silver is the future. We're going to go from 100 silver coins to 1 million silver coins. That's not the sign to go out there and buy silver. Because if you own one silver coin, you own 1% of all the silver in the world. But if you own one coin out of 1 million, you don't own 1% of the world's silver. You own 1/10,000% of the world's silver. And so Bitcoin is properly pricing in the true value of silver. Bitcoin is communicating to you that silver is trending down as human beings get more productive at producing more silver. Political currency, whether it's Argentine or American political currency, that is communicating to you that it's just magically lifting off into the stratosphere. That's not the case. The natural state of the free market is deflation, not inflation. And so if we're going to price, instead of Argentine or American political currency, if we're going to price silver in terms of Bitcoin, what do we see? Well, in green, we see the price of silver in terms of US dollars. The same chart we were looking at before in blue, but now it's just in green. The chart in red is the price of silver when your denominator is in truthful Bitcoin currency units and not in manipulated American political currency units or Argentine political currency units. What Bitcoin is telling you is that the value of silver is trending down within the Bitcoin network. If you want to think of Argentina as its own country with its own political currency, you want to think of America as its own country with its own political currency, and if you want to think of Bitcoin as its own country with its own internal currency, according to the nation of Bitcoin, the value of silver has declined dramatically over the course of the last 15 or 16 years. And so, my friends, the question would be, why? If silver is trending up and up and up in dollars and up even faster in terms of pesos, why is it trending down in terms of Bitcoin? It's because the country of Bitcoin, the company of Bitcoin, the economic powerhouse of the Bitcoin network, is becoming worth a larger and larger share of the globe. What you see here are the top assets of the world, the top 9 assets of the world, ranked by the market capitalization of each of those assets. Okay, here, the top 10. Number 1 is gold, currently at $28 trillion. Number 2 is NVIDIA at $4 trillion. Apple Computer is just under $4 trillion. Microsoft is at 3.8. Alphabet, aka Google, which you're watching this video on, by the way, thank you, Google, is roughly $3 trillion. Silver, right now, is currently the 6th largest asset in the world at roughly $2.7 trillion. $500 billion lower than that is Amazon Bitcoin at roughly $2.2 trillion. And then another $700 billion below that is Facebook, Meta. So these are the top 9 global singular assets in the world. So silver still has value. It's still the second best precious metal in the world. Silver would have to increase by a factor of 10 to be comparable to that of gold. And Bitcoin would have to increase by a factor of, what would that be? That would be about 14 to meet that of gold. And so, sure, silver is still a pretty large global asset. However, in just roughly 15, 16 years, Bitcoin has almost caught up to what silver has been able to produce over the course of the last 5,000 years. Portuguese and Spanish monarchs hundreds and hundreds of years ago were exploiting all kinds of Latin American and South American countries, getting all kinds of silver out of them over the course of centuries on the backs of millions of slaves. And all of that effort, all of that work from all those people that have lived and died and broken large rocks into smaller rocks and refined those rocks to get silver out, all of that work has been, in terms of economics, outpaced by the rate of Bitcoin with just a few 100,000 users over the course of a much, much, much shorter period of time. The direction for Bitcoin is much, much faster at accelerating towards the future than silver because Bitcoin is secured by electricity, and electricity is a much more valuable backing than somebody breaking large rocks into smaller rocks. The reason why gold and silver, even today after thousands of years of technological innovation, the reason why gold and silver have value, why they are precious metals in the eyes of many people, is because they took effort to produce. Somebody had to dig underground or sift in a river or blow up a mountain to get gold or silver out of the earth, to repackage it and sell it so that somebody could stamp an American eagle on it so they could bury it in their backyard, right? That's the work, right? Nobody can fake that work. The same thing is true with Bitcoin from a digital sense. Nobody can fake a Bitcoin. Somebody somewhere, instead of blowing up a mountain or taking a hammer to a stone, somebody out there in the world had to flip binary ones and zeros and hash a Bitcoin into existence. It took an electrical cost to produce a Bitcoin. Right now, at the time of recording, it costs about 70 or 80 grand, I believe, to produce one singular Bitcoin in terms of an electricity cost. So the point is that of these assets on the screen here, NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Facebook, all of those are tech monopolies. or owning a share of those monopolies is you own a share of the productivity of those monopolies. Gold, silver, and Bitcoin are the hard assets on this list of the 9 largest assets in the world. And Bitcoin, despite being much younger by like a factor of literally 50 or 100 of these other precious assets, despite Bitcoin being younger, it's already taken the vast majority of the market share when compared to silver. And Bitcoin is going to be much, much higher than silver or gold in the future because it's much more audible and because it's much more secure. You can't have a global silver standard or a global gold standard anymore in the digital age. I'll get to that more in just a moment. But the larger point here is that Bitcoin does not deserve to be at the same market cap of silver or the same market cap of gold. It deserves to be at a market cap 5 times, 10 times, 100 times higher. If you don't believe me, look at the other 6 assets in this ranking of the 9 largest assets in the world. Facebook, Alphabet, Microsoft, Apple, and Nvidia. What do all of those have in common? They are all tech monopolies, okay? It is not reasonable, it is not logical to say that Facebook someday might have a market cap similar to that of radio. It is not fair to say someday that Amazon is going to have a similar market cap to a small chain of local analog bookstores. It is not fair to say that Apple Computer someday is only going to have a market cap similar to that of the first telephone in the world or the first telegraph in the world, right? No, the market cap of these tech monopolies inherently is orders of magnitude higher than the market cap of the inferior technology. The digital monopolies, these other 6 companies you see on this top asset ranking list, those companies deserve to be worth much more. The digital counterpart is worth much more than the technologically inferior analog version. And so Bitcoin, because it is infinitely more verifiably proof of work than silver or gold, and because it is infinitely more audible, and because it is infinitely easier to transport throughout space and time, Bitcoin deserves to not have a similar market cap. It deserves to have a market cap much, much higher. If Bitcoin had a market cap equivalent to gold, the price of Bitcoin per coin would be about $1.5 million. If Bitcoin deserves to be 10 times the market cap of gold, it should be about $14 or $15 million. And if over the course of the next 10, 20 years, because we are diluting the American political currency unit, just like how Argentina does it with their political currency unit, if the fiat nominal price of gold, the market cap of gold, in nominal terms, were to expand by 2x, or let's say 3x, then the fiat determined price of Bitcoin should be like $45 to $55 million per coin. And so Bitcoin at $100,000, you're not too late to that. You know, you shouldn't have gotten on the silver bandwagon because sure, silver might go up in price, but even if it goes up in price, even if the central banks run out of silver, even if we don't discover any new silver in the world for a while, right? Even in the best case scenario, silver and gold still fail. And let me explain why that is the case. The honeypot problem, okay? Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say Bitcoin is in the future. Okay, let's go down the rabbit hole here and assume, you know, maybe we are going to be on a gold standard someday. Maybe we are going to be on a silver standard. What's the underlying problem in that? The problem is the honeypot problem. Let's go to the end goal. Let's say silver is now the world's form of money, or gold is the world's form of money. They're both rocks that sit there inert, so it's the same thing at the end of the day, right? Let's say it's gold or silver that becomes the world's money. Okay, how do you secure that? Okay, if silver is the world's money, you got to have a central storehouse for that silver, because you can't have people in the digital age, you know, breaking off pieces of silver to make every kind of transaction every day. That's not possible, right? It's not possible in the world of digital AI and the future, right? If you believe that we're going to have the internet die and computers die and we go back to the Stone Age, or we go back in time 500 years, then you shouldn't have bought silver or gold. You should have bought guns, ammo, you know, and seeds, right? To grow your own farm, right? So the point is, at the end of the day, if you believe computers are going to continue to exist, if the internet is going to continue to exist, if the future will continue to happen, then you should expect we're not going to be on a silver standard where people are exchanging analog silver with each other, because that literally will not work. Even the Dutch, 400 years ago in the 1600s, got off the gold standard and invented the first stock market in the world because of this very problem. Analog precious metals are not good at transferring across space. They're better at across over time, but political currencies are better at transferring value across space in the here and now. They're too slow. They're too cumbersome, silver and gold. And so what one needs to do is you need to tokenize the silver or the gold. And this is what the US dollar was for a very long period of time. If you go back to the silver chart from earlier, why is it that debasement was so much less worse in the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, and 50s in particular? It's because we had the Bretton Woods Agreement, where American dollars were pegged with gold. The American dollar was effectively a blockchain for gold. You had a central point of failure for the gold, Fort Knox, right, being the infamous one. And the U.S. government secured it and audited it, right? They made sure that it was all there or whatever. And they gave people a tokenized amount of gold. Hey, we have this American political currency to give you the confidence that we're going to have work behind the American dollar. We'll give you this token of American dollar. We're back at 1-to-1. You can redeem it for gold anytime. That's effectively what it was. And so the underlying problem of why we will never adopt a global silver or gold standard is because we have already tried it for thousands of years, and it has still failed. A lot of people out there don't seem to understand this. A lot of people think that silver or gold is the future. It's going to 10x, 20x in price, right? But again, my point is, if you believe that silver or gold is going to 10x and 20x in price, again, in what currency, right? Are we talking Argentine pesos? Are we talking dollars? Or are we talking Bitcoin? Silver is going up forever in terms of Argentine pesos. Silver is going up forever in terms of dollars. But neither of those things actually matter. What actually matters is silver going up in terms of gold, and is silver going up in terms of Bitcoin? And the answer to both is no. Lowercase no in the case of gold, capital no in the case of Bitcoin. But a lot of people don't understand this. Here's a post from earlier today that I responded to. That's not exactly related, but I think it's really important. Okay, Garrett here, who is a CFA and CMT, is responding to Pierre Richard. Pierre Richard's initial comment was, "How do you use gold on the internet? Mailing with USPS to pay for e-commerce seems impractical." He's getting to the point I was mentioning earlier. But Garrett comes in here, genius, this Garrett guy, and he says, basically, Pierre's an idiot, and well, obviously, when you tokenize gold, all these problems go away. Here come the new Bitcoin talking points. This is the stupidest one yet. Tether gold to the world's ultimate currency with the best of crypto and gold combined. Worried much, hodlers? LOL, right? Basically, he's saying the Bitcoiners are stupid idiots, and that the future is that we're going to tether gold to the blockchain, tokenize all the assets or whatever, right? And I responded to him that I think this is a really good idea to have gold tethered with the blockchain. Wow, what if we could tokenize gold? It has great potential. And my humble suggestion here was that instead of trusting a centralized company with holding all of the world's gold and then tokenizing the gold for the whole world so we can get rid of the USPS problem across space, right? My answer was that why don't we go even more decentralized? What's more decentralized than a company without a military, right? And without a constitution? A large government. That is even more centralized, right? It's an even more diverse board of human beings. That's even harder to change than that of the board of a company. Let's go with the US government because it's the most secure government in the world, right? We can have a $1 US gold-backed stablecoin back with $1 with real US dollars, right? And of course, this is all in jest and sarcasm. My point being that we have tried this. This is exactly what the US dollar was. And the point is, this is the problem with a honeypot. When you have an analog asset requires physical analog defense. When it requires physical analog defense, that means that not everybody can verify. When not everybody can verify, it means inherently the incentive grows and grows and grows for somebody somewhere at some point in time, somebody that's managing these assets, to dilute those that don't own it. We saw this thousands of years ago, before ancient Egypt, when people in Mesopotamia would, become the protectors of a city and hoard all the grain and the assets and then, steal from everybody else. We've seen this with gold from ancient Egypt all the way to America as recently as 1971. And ultimately, this will not work. So no, silver may be going up in price. Gold may be going up in price. Real estate's going up in price, but everything is going up in price because the political currency you're measuring from within is going down. And when you price silver in terms of the best, hardest, and most immutable form of currency in the world, which is Bitcoin, you see what's actually happening. You're not watching gold skyrocket. You're watching political currency fall. And don't get the two confused. So hopefully this video was useful to you. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and do all that wonderful stuff. And if you're somebody, presumably you are somebody that understands that Bitcoin is the future. You want to exchange that silver equity for Bitcoin equity. You want to exchange that real estate equity for Bitcoin equity. There are now multiple Bitcoin home equity products on the market. If you're somebody that wants to convert up to 65% of your home equity into Bitcoin with minimum income and credit check verification on 8-year to 30-year terms, in fact, you can go as low as 5 years if you want. There's zero monthly payment, zero impact to your monthly cash flow situation. It's not a taxable event. That's something that I need to also mention here. That's also really important. And of course, at the end of the day, something that's also really important is that there's no margin call, that you have self-custody of your Bitcoin. If you have interest of converting your either real estate investment equity or your home equity, your secondary home equity, whatever the case, if you want to convert home equity into Bitcoin with minimal friction on your monthly income, on your taxes, and everything else, feel free to reach out to me. Text the phone number on the screen, quote unquote, Bitcoin home equity, and let's have a conversation. You're going to see more and more companies out there. Right now, there's a handful of them. Within a year, I believe there'll be dozens of them. Within a couple of years, there'll be literally hundreds of options out there for you, trying to get you to use their specific product. So if you want to have a call with me, where my job is literally to help people increase their Bitcoin stack, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. I work at a Bitcoin advisor. We have over $1 billion of assets that we're looking over 500 clients, over 20 different countries. Since 2016, this is what the team has been doing. And our average client increases the Bitcoin stack by about 70% within the first 12 months. I was talking about these products months ago when most other people weren't. But now that most of these companies are coming out here with a marketing budget, suddenly you're going to see a lot more people talking about this. So if you want to get the best products at the earliest time possible with the most amount of Bitcoin exposure for you possible, feel free to book a call with me. The phone number is on the screen. Information is in the description below. And the exciting thing is that the best is yet to come. Okay, this kind of product is literally the worst that it's ever going to be again. I expect that you're going to be able to get way more than 65% pretty soon here on way longer terms at way lower rates, way cheaper costs. So feel free to reach out if you want to be converting home equity into Bitcoin. But ultimately, at the end of the day, understand that pricing silver in terms of Argentine pesos is an oxymoron. Pricing silver in terms of American dollars is an oxymoron. And silver is not going to become the gold standard of the world's monetary system because we have already tried this. Apparently, it's going to take a few 100,000 CPAs out there, another few decades, maybe even lifetimes, to figure this one out for them, right? In the meantime, they'll be trying to tokenize silver and gold on the blockchain or the peso or the dollar or whatever they're going to try to do. But ultimately, it's going to fail. Why? Because everything is trending down inevitably towards ever closer towards zero, while never quite hitting zero. And silver is no different. So don't make the mistake of pricing silver in terms of political currency. Pricing in Bitcoin, silver's not going up. It's going down. It's already been going down. It's got another 99% to fall.